Welcome to Road to Recovery.
Hey there, welcome to Road to Recovery, advocacy and insights for trucking accidents with Sagi Shaked. I'm Kevin Rosenquist, and thanks for being here. Sagi is founder of Shaked Law Personal Injury Lawyers and is ranked as one of the top 100 trial lawyers in the United States by the American Trial Lawyers Association. With a wealth of experience in personal injury, wrongful death, and complex litigation cases, he passionately advocates for victims and has recovered multi-million-dollar settlements in damages for his clients. Sagi, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Kevin.
So can you explain the role of insurance companies when it comes to trucking accident cases?
That's a great question. Insurance companies basically have a role of protecting their money. So what do I mean? When a truck accident happens, it's different than a car accident. So usually you'll see a truck wreck. Immediately, the first phone call that truck driver makes is to risk management, and then they call the insurance company. The insurance company has a team in place. They have accident reconstruction experts, human factors experts, lighting experts, braking experts, trucking experts, trailer experts, broker experts. They all come to the scene right away. And they're not coming because they're good Samaritans. They're coming to protect their money. So they're doing everything possible, trying to preserve whatever evidence that could benefit them and help them protect the insurance company's money. So that's kind of what insurance, or that's how insurance comes into the play here. Obviously, they have the money to pay out claims, but they're going to do everything possible to protect their interests and, protect the evidence in their favor, not necessarily your favor.
You heard it here first, folks. Insurance companies are looking to protect their own assets. What are the initial challenges the victims face when dealing with insurance companies after a trucking accident?
Yeah, so the initial challenges that victims face is, number one, by the time they get to a lawyer. So a lot of our clients, by the time they get to us, they've been in the hospital for a while, and then they call us. Or if they're only in the hospital for a day or two, it's better because we can get to the scene right away. Whereas the insurance company, like I said before, their truck driver is calling risk management and they have their team in place. So when someone hires us, our team can only get there after you've hired us. And if it's been a couple of days or weeks, we'll still go out there right away. But the challenge is to see what evidence is left at the scene. Sometimes witnesses, we'd like to get to the witnesses before the insurance company does. They have a way of getting to witnesses that can negatively affect, a person's claim. So we want to get to the witnesses, speak to them, get the truth out of them, and lock them down with statements so we can have, be certain of what they're going to say and what they saw. Also getting to the scene, if there's videos from the different street cams or the highways that captured it, that makes a world of a difference in telling that story. Skid marks make a difference in telling that story. There's all types of proof that we need, and we'd like to get out there sooner rather than later. So the big challenge is, can we get out there at the same time? Because if my client's calling from the scene, they're probably not injured, right? So usually it's clients who are injured. The last thing on their mind is, let's preserve the scene. They're so injured, they don't have time to think about that. And by the time they come to, that's when we get involved. So hopefully if a client gets injured, a family member can call us, and that'll really help, protect the file by getting our team out there, our accident reconstruction expert, our photographer, our human factors experts, our trucking experts, making sure we do the data download on those cars. Because you hear about the EDM or the electronic data recorder. They call it the black box sometimes. You hear about that on planes, but they also have it on trucks and cars. So we want to get that before that truck is back on the road again or hits someone else. So those are some of the challenges that we face.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what strategies victims and legal representatives employ to maximize chances of a fair settlement. And I'd say you started out with, it's not always possible, but try to get to you ASAP.
Yeah, I would say that's one of the most critical components because so when the truck driver calls risk management is doing everything to protect their case and their file, but they know that the more time goes by, they don't have to preserve certain things. So for example, the truck driver's employment file, that after 6 months, they can get rid of, and they know that. So if you haven't sent as an attorney or the person that's injured a preservation letter to, for example, preserve the employment file, then there goes that. Now you can't prove that they knew he had, or that the company had noticed that the truck driver was a bad driver, or that they did their due diligence before putting out a truck driver on the road that's moving around 80,000 pounds of machinery at 55, 65 miles an hour. You can imagine that does create some serious damage when they impact somebody. So what kind of drivers are they putting on the road? When you have all these, there's about 4,000 people a year that die from trucking accidents. So there's a big problem, and that needs to stop. We need to know, where are they getting their drivers from? So I'd like to send out those preservation letters, and that's preserving one of a laundry list of items that we would send to the motor carrier. The motor carrier is the trucking company, to preserve evidence to ensure that it doesn't get destroyed within 6 months, because the law says only 6 months do they have to keep that stuff.
Wow. Okay. So it's only 6 months. That seems low to me.
It does, considering the amount of fatalities and bad accidents that we have, because a lot of times people don't call us for a month because they've been in the hospital for a month. And at that time, we're still able to get everything preserved. But sometimes people don't know, and it's not their number one thing on their mind. And so what I would say to them is, just make the initial phone call, get someone who really knows what they're doing in trucking so they can preserve the evidence, and then you can get on with your life trying to get better while the trucking lawyer does what they need to do to protect your file and protect your case so they can move forward and get you justice.
So as far as insurance adjusters go, how do they typically approach claims that involve serious injuries or even fatalities in trucking accidents?
Yeah, so insurance adjusters, it depends on which adjuster you get and for which insurance company. Some are better than others. Some recognize that they have to pay, and then other types of adjusters take a different stance. Some insurance companies, their stance is, we fight everything, we take everything to trial. And some insurance companies are more reasonable. They can see the big picture and they pay claims. That's why you don't see sometimes crazy verdicts. When you see very high verdicts, it's because insurance companies are challenging lawyers to try the case. And they make they do a risk analysis, and sometimes they take the wrong side of the equation. So for example, we've had a couple of cases where the insurance companies have lowballed us, and we've had to go to trial, and we've gotten 10, 20, 30, 40, even 50 times the amount that they offered us. So sometimes you do have to go try the case. A lot of times you do. But if the insurance company is doing their job right and they're correctly analyzing the case, then they should pay. Now, the insurance companies do look at the different lawyers handling the claim. So for example, if you have a very young lawyer on the file, they know who's gone to trial. They know who's been tested. They have an idea because they keep tallies on everybody. So when I was a young lawyer, I used to work on the defense. I used to defend these trucking companies and other insurance companies who defended all types of accidents. And one of the things we would do, as soon as a case came in, there would be a report where you would write a report to the insurance company letting them know, here's what we think about the case. Here's our liability, which is how the crash occurred, who's at fault and what percentage at fault. Here are the injuries. And then they do a whole write-up on the attorney. And they let the insurance company know, this is an attorney we have to worry about, or this is an attorney that we can push over. They'll take the first couple of offers and just take it and walk away. This is one of those advertising machines. They need the money to fuel their advertising costs. And so they'll take anything that you give them. They won't go try the case. So that's one of the things, you really have to be careful at when you're picking a lawyer. And the insurance companies, the adjusters know this. So again, they're doing their homework on every lawyer. They know who tries a case. They know who gets good results. They know what the results are. I was in a mediation recently, and one of the adjusters said, we've heard about your result. We had a result that we settled a case for a single individual in excess of 9 figures. That's in excess of $100 million. They knew about it. Word travels fast in the insurance industry about who's getting results and who's not. So hopefully that answered some of the questions.
I think so. No, that definitely did. Yeah, no, that's fascinating. Wow, 100 million. All right. Well, I don't want to get into an accident, but 100 million sounds nice.
Yeah, you don't want that injury,
no,
though.
That's not the way I want to do it. I'll just keep playing the lottery. How does the complexity of trucking accident cases affect negotiations with insurance companies? Because I imagine there's more moving parts than, say, two cars get into an accident.
Right. So what happens with trucking cases and why they're different than car accident cases? So car accident, you don't necessarily have a professional driver. In a trucking case, you have a professional driver who's got their commercial driver's license, which is known as a CDL. And then if they're doing interstate travel, which is between different states in the United States, or intra. So intra would be within a specific state, and then interstate is across different states. So there's different rules that different truck drivers have to follow. So if they're driving interstate between states, there's the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. So they've published regulations that every truck driver must follow. And I can tell you, without a doubt, almost every deposition we've taken for truck drivers, they don't follow the regulations. The regulations are laws in place to make our roads safer. So we don't have people dying on the road. So we don't have people getting hit by truck drivers. And one of the big regulations that you see is dealing with fatigue. So a lot of these fatalities and trucking accidents is because truck drivers are, whether they're putting in too many hours or their company requires them to drive too many hours, more than the law allows. And then you have people getting hurt because the truck drivers are fatigued. So trucking doesn't start from the moment you get in the car. Like when we get in a car, we just start driving. That's not when their hours of operation start. Their hours of operation start the moment you do what's called a pre-trip inspection. So pre-trip inspection is you've got to go around that truck and monitor and look at everything from your tires to your doors, to your lights, to make sure everything's working properly. And that needs to be done about every 150 miles. And the reason that should be done and must be done, one, it's law, but two, it's to make sure that your truck is safe. We've had cases where wheels fall off the truck and fly and hit pedestrians and literally just catastrophically injured and change their life forever. And I can guarantee you that wasn't a pre-trip inspection that wasn't done properly. Because if it was done properly, that doesn't happen. So a lot of times they don't do their pre-trip inspections, which is one of the rules and regulations, law, that they have to do. But there's so many other laws that they have to follow, again, to make our roads safer. So every one of us can get on the road and not have to worry when we're next to one of these big rigs that they're going to cut us off, a wheel's going to fly off, that their blind spot is not attuned to where it should be so they don't run into us. Some of them are gas tankers where, a gas tanker rolls over. We have this case that's going to cause major explosion. People are going to get burned and die. So we have that type of a case as well right now. So those are some of the challenges that we have where it's different from a normal car accident case.
You mentioned the laws. Speaking of that, like how do regulatory factors, industry standards, things like that influence insurance company responses to trucking accident claims?
Yeah, so the insurance companies know when they're underwriting these claims. So when an insurance company underwrites, they're looking at what is the risk that we have a crash here, and then how much are we going to charge these specific motor carriers. So some of the motor carriers, these trucking companies, are better than others. A lot of times you see the mom and pops. But lately you start seeing the Amazons, which are popping up all over the place, right? As Amazon gets larger and larger, there's more and more trucks.
They're everywhere in my area.
And then Amazon tries to say that they're not a trucking company. We're just a logistic company. Well, it's your trucks. You're hiring these people and you're controlling every aspect of every delivery. They know when the trucks are getting there, how they're getting there. They tell the trucks what routes to take, what are the fastest routes, how to get there. So they're controlling everything. So these laws are meant to prevent companies from overworking their drivers. And then sometimes you have drivers who just put in too many hours. But it's the company's responsibility to know, hey, if a driver is accomplishing way too much for a certain distance, there's only a certain amount of hours if you're driving the speed limit, 55, 65 miles an hour, that you can cover. So if you're driving more than those hours, they should know that. There's gas receipts, there's mileage, you can do the numbers, you can figure it out. So they've got to do their job to ensure the roads are protected. So again, people don't get injured, don't lose their lives, and families, the family dynamic doesn't change because you have a company that just doesn't care to follow the law.
So let's say someone's listening here, may find themselves dealing with an insurance company after a trucking accident. What advice would you give them on how to get started? What should they do?
Yeah. So number one, if you're listening and you are a victim of a truck accident or your family member is, do not deal with the trucking company or the insurance company on your own. There are so many pitfalls to fall in that you can really ruin your case. Why? The trucking company, number one, is going to want to get your statement. They're going to want to record you and see what you say. Before you do that, you have to get a lawyer that knows what they're doing. You have to get all the evidence. And then, and only then, do you give a statement, because the insurance company, by the time you're giving your statement, has had their experts on the scene, their accident reconstruction expert, their human factors expert, their lighting expert, their trucking expert, their trailer expert, their broker expert. They've hired all these people to protect their money, and then they're having their person give a statement. So our job is to ensure you don't give a statement. Let us get the evidence. Let us see if we can prove our case. And then you can give your statement. If you give a statement before, we don't know what could come out. Sometimes people are nervous. They don't know what to say. Sometimes they're under the influence of a narcotic because they're still in the hospital. These insurance companies want to get to people before they get lawyers, because they know if the person gets a lawyer, they're going to be able to prove their case and expose the insurance company for what they're doing. Now, I'm not afraid to call them out, because we call them out in all our cases. It seems like every single one of their cases, they're playing games with the records. They're doing something. They're getting rid of their files. We had one case where the trucking company caused a really bad wreck, and we subpoenaed their file. We did the preservation letter to preserve their employment file, and they hired their truck driver from Craigslist. They didn't do any background on the truck driver. They didn't have any background file on the truck driver. They didn't know where he worked before. They didn't know that he had wrecks before, yet they still put him on the road. Let's put anybody on the road driving an 80,000-pound piece of machinery at 55 miles an hour just to get the product to the next place without looking at the safety and the hazard it can cause. So there are things that you should be aware of. And that's why having someone who's been in the trenches, who's board certified like myself, who's tried cases, who's tried trucking cases to verdict, that can really help your case and protect the evidence before it disappears.
That's great advice. Well, thanks for tuning in to Road to Recovery, advocacy and insights for trucking accidents with Sagi Shaked. For more information or to connect with Sagi, visit shakedlaw.com. That's SHAKED law.com. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Sagi, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Kevin.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.